So here's the thing. There's this saying in the outdoor industry, cotton kills. Generally speaking, that's true. At least in colder weather. You don't want to wear natural fibers like cotton, hemp, or bamboo when it's cold outside, because when that stuff gets wet, it doesn't dry very quickly. So you actually stay wet and colder longer, which can lead to hypothermia much quicker. So cotton in the winter, terrible idea. But in the summer, when it doesn't really matter if you stay soggy for an extended period of time, is cotton and hemp and tencel and these sorts of fabrics, is that okay? Well, we decided to get our hands on some organic cotton, hemp, and other natural fibers to see how they performed on extended adventures in the outdoors.
So, if cotton kills, should you avoid it at all costs, or would we do it again?
Well, sure. But also, no. Sometimes it depends.
So it's a resounding probably, or more accurately, absolutely, but only if the conditions are right.
So we're going to talk about all of that, plus sustainability, comfort, and performance when it comes to wearing plant-based fibers, and whether or not you can or should wear them instead of synthetics for hiking, biking, or whatever else you're into.
But first things first, you absolutely shouldn't wear cotton, bamboo, or hemp in cold, wet conditions, i.e. snow.
That's because plant-based fibers really do have the potential to increase your risk of hypothermia when it's cold outside.
That's because these types of fibers don't dry quickly like synthetics do from moisture like rain or snow, but also sweat.
And wet clothing means you're more likely to suffer from hypothermia in the cold. And I'm talking as warm as 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
So just say no to cotton in the winter, but in other seasons? Well, let's talk about the pros and cons of hiking in plant-based fibers, because there are plenty of each.
Let's start with the pros. Now, to begin, plant-based fibers are, frankly, just more comfortable. I mean, they just are. Very comfy. I'm hiking these all the time. Zero exaggeration.
Synthetic clothing can feel gross and clingy when it's hot outside, especially if it's humid.
Cotton, hemp, and materials like tencel, on the other hand, are often soft to the touch and nicer on the skin.
Plus, if you opt for lighter, looser articles, plant-based fibers can also be extremely light and breathable.
And that means they're less clingy and encourage more airflow, which can help keep you cool.
And because they don't dry as fast as synthetics, it means the evaporative effect, the result of sweat soaking your clothes and then evaporating, will last a few minutes longer.
That keeps you cool, at least in drier climates. More on how they perform in humid climates in a second. But in drier climates like Utah, where we live, they'll obviously dry pretty fast. The other day, I believe the humidity was a delightful 14%.
Which means even if we sweat and our shirt or shorts get soggy, they're still going to dry pretty fast, which is good because nobody wants to hike in soggy clothing.
On one 90-degree hike, for example, our shirts were definitely soaked. But once we stopped for a lunch break, they dried out in less than 5 minutes.
Plant-based fibers are also typically more sustainable. I mean, not by default. There are plenty of outdoor brands that make synthetic clothing that's more responsibly designed, and brands exploiting workers and making cheap, fast-fashioned cotton shirts out of pesticide-heavy plants.
But generally speaking, bamboo, cotton, and hemp are entirely renewable, meaning farmers can just keep planting and planting and planting.
Plus, if those plants are organic, they require zero herbicides or pesticides, and these fibers biodegrade far more readily than synthetics once they've reached the end of their life and end up in a landfill.
Plus, as long as they're organic, or at least untreated, as they break down, they're not leaching any harmful chemicals into the soil.
Related, of course, is the whole microplastics issue. The making and even home laundering of synthetics contributes minor amounts of microplastics into the environment.
Of course, most outdoorists can't avoid synthetics completely. A cotton jacket for mountaineering in January or jeans for backcountry skiing is just a terrible idea if you don't want to increase your risk of dying of hypothermia, substantially.
So we'll link to an article we wrote about how to reduce microplastics in the description when synthetics are necessary.
But choosing to wear plant-based fibers instead when the conditions are right can absolutely reduce those microplastic contributions.
Basically, organic cotton, hemp, and bamboo are actually excellent materials for many warm weather outdoor pursuits.
But they also double as solid and sustainable everyday apparel. And you know, we're all about having one piece of clothing that can do 5 things instead of 5 pieces of clothing that can each only do 1.
I mean, a shirt and shorts I can hike in, but also wear to the brewery and to dinner and to the farmer's market without looking like I just sauntered out of the backcountry? Win.
But let's move on to the cons of wearing cotton and other plant-based fibers in the outdoors, starting with the technical aspects of these materials.
As in, there aren't any. These kind of fabrics just don't have the same performance chops as their polyester or nylon counterparts.
They're not water resistant, they don't wick sweat or dry fast, and often they don't stand up to rigorous abuse, like bushwhacking and scrambling and such.
That said, I've also burned plenty of holes in my polyester puffy jackets. We'll link to a video of some of our faves in the description, and torn expensive nylon pants just by doing very normal outdoorsy things.
So we'll also link to a video we did about repairing outdoor clothing and gear. FYI, it's way easier than you think.
Now, while cotton is an excellent choice for dry, hot climates, it may not be as well suited for multi-day adventures in humid climates. But honestly, this is more a matter of preference.
True story, because my dad goes backpacking in cotton all the time, including in super humid Ohio.
But when you get your clothing soaked with sweat and it's humid, that clothing will never dry out.
Again, that's not a huge deal if you just have extra clothes that you can change into when you get to camp or get home. But if it's really humid, chances are your soggy clothes will still be soggy tomorrow morning.
Meaning you now have to either put damp clothes back on or pack up and carry heavy, wet clothing for the rest of the trip.
And either way, frankly, I would rather not. I don't like carrying extra clothing or extra weight. So on multi-day backpacking trips that occur anywhere but the desert, I'll probably stick with synthetics, just personally. But day hikes? Whatever, who cares if you're a little soggy?
I also want to touch on the note we made a bit earlier about durability, because some of you probably just got a little defensive there and want to make an argument about blue jeans or waxed canvas jackets and the like.
Yes, those things are absolutely durable. And for mild, dry weather, say if you're going on a hike on a sunny autumn afternoon, absolutely go for it. But when it's really hot outside, you will not catch me dead in a pair of jeans. They're freaking heavy and they're too dang hot.
And that can be dangerous in extreme heat because while lighter weight fabrics can help keep you cool, heavier materials like denim can actually trap heat and make you feel hotter, which can lead to heat-related illnesses like heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
The latter of which can result in death in extreme cases.
So no, when it's really hot or humid outside, you want to avoid thick, heavy fibers in order to stay comfortable. And also alive.
Another thing we tend to avoid, cotton socks and underwear. At least on longer hikes and multi-day excursions.
That's because plant-based fibers definitely can't dry out after they get sweaty if they never see the light of day. And sweaty socks and underwear can bunch and shift and chafe something awful.
Blech. We're talking blisters galore. Gross. Speaking of, we have a video all about treating blisters dropping soon, so subscribe so you don't miss that.
Then what makes a good article of plant-based apparel for outdoor adventure? So glad you asked. We recommend clothing that's light and loose to promote breathability and comfort.
And if you opt for cotton, look for products made with organic materials. Conventional cotton is extremely pesticide dependent. In fact, its growth uses 16 to 25% of the total pesticides produced worldwide. But the crop itself only covers about 2.5% of the world's total agricultural land. What?
Yikes. Hemp is also highly sustainable, though. It requires less water than cotton and actually gives back as much to the soil as it takes. Plus, just about every part of the plant can be used.
Responsibly harvested bamboo grows super fast, making it a highly renewable resource. It also sequesters impressive amounts of CO2 and can boost the health of soil.
As for products made of modal and lyocell, often referred to by the brand name Tencel, they're made of bio-based fibers, aka wood. But check with the manufacturer to see if they use responsibly harvested sources and processing.
Now, we'll link to articles we wrote about all of these materials and their various pros and cons in the description below.
Fortunately, you don't have to drop a whole paycheck replacing your wardrobe with plant-based fibers. You probably have plenty of cotton, linen, or cotton blend clothing in your closet already.
Now, if you'd like more of those items or you're on a budget, much of what we own we bought used from Goodwill or Poshmark or Gear Trade, and used clothing is always more sustainable than new. We'll drop a link to a video about that below.
But if you're looking for something specific, we'll drop links to some of the clothing we wore in this video, plus some of our favorite sustainable brands that make awesome clothing from plant-based fibers in the description. Then get out there, hike in plant-based fibers if you want, just, never in the winter. And wander on.